All right, man. Again,
Sick.
second time's a charm. If you want to go to
I
introduce
thought
yourself.
wasn't this the third time?
Oh yeah, yours.
I think this is the third take.
Third time is the charm. Yeah, the first one got cut off after like 20 minutes.
Literally could be the third take.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a Josh Mason episode 2.5.
But yeah, guys. So my name's Josh Mason. I drive the BMW E92 at Hot Pet Auto Fest. Been drifting for quite some time now. I'd almost say maybe, oh boy, just little under 10 years, something like that. Started in Top Drift, then went to the Drift League. Had a S197 Mustang, also an S14. A lot of you know me from the Hoonigan days of taking my orange 1968 Drift Camaro over to like the Burn Yard and then also the old previous Donut Garage and stuff like that. Also was the co-host for Detroit Muscle. Those of you who don't know, that's just a little bit about me. But yeah,
What's Detroit Muscle? Now I'm curious.
Detroit Muscle was or is it was like the before the social media days, that was like the TV show of like the car build stuff, but it was all like bolt-on build stuff. It was kind of like the old Stacy Davis or Stacy David type shows and stuff.
That's the guy I was talking about the other day. Remember when I was like,
Yeah,
his was my favorite show, but I can't remember his name. It was Stacey David.
yeah, Stacy David. Yeah, so Detroit Muscle is basically like those shows. They're like it was pretty corny. It was an experience, but it's kind of like they're still in that old TV world and they haven't really up to dated things, I guess you can say, when it comes down to like social media.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was cool. It was cool like co-hosting with like Tommy Boschers and Mark Christ and all those and Pat Topolinski, like meeting all those dudes. Like they're actually really really good dudes.
Was that when you
But
were
yeah, it
younger?
was no. This was like recent. This was kind of like just after COVID. This was probably maybe like a year and a half ago or something like that. I moved out to Tennessee to do that TV show, and then they offered me the full time gig. Took the full time gig, and didn't really kind of. I'm not going to say anything bad. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave, so I ended up quitting to come back. Well, I quit. I was going to stay out in Tennessee, build a shop out there, hopefully buy a home out there and stuff like that because everything was a lot cheaper, and then move all my stuff that's here in California out there, and then pursue the rest of my life out there. But my shop, I still had my shop here, still had my family, and it was just going to cost too much. So I was like, you know what? I'll just come back here, try and make it happen out here as much as I can, and then in the future move out of California. So it was an
Yeah.
experience.
I hear that. This place is freaking expensive.
It is,
It ain't no joke.
among many other things.
It's a wild place. But we do have like the best, probably like drifting situation. I've talked to like a few people who've like
Yeah.
kind of drifted around the world, so to speak, and they're like SoCal's probably the best because you have like several tracks uh, within like 2 hour driving, and then if you want to go, let's just say a day of driving, there's like it doubles. So you have what like Sonoma, that's not a whole day, but like a 6 hour drive. You got what Musselman in Arizona. You got Vegas. I think there's a couple in Arizona that if I'm not mistaken. But this is the shit. This is the place to be, I guess.
Yeah, but who knows how long this wave that we're currently on is going to last? Because if you think about it, like they already shut down, Auto Club Speedway. I know Auto Club
Yeah.
Speedway didn't do drifting, but just for the simple reason, like, okay, they got shut down, and then now you have Orange Show Speedway that because they're owned by the government. Who knows how long that's going to be a thing? And then you have Irwindale that, I get it. I don't want any tracks to disappear, but I feel like Irwindale is like a ticking time bomb. Of it's not like it's inevitable. That track is eventually going to go away, and then who knows, dude? Like I really hate to say it, but I think the only track that's going to be left in Southern California will be like Willow Springs, and then you're going to have Willow Springs, and then you're going to have like Sonoma, and then that's it. Like
Yeah,
in
that's
the
for like big
future.
racetracks. I mean, what they
Yeah.
already took. I don't know if you ever drove there. Did you ever drive at Adams Motorsport Park in Riverside?
Oh yeah. Adams, the go kart track. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually where I did a lot of learning there too.
yeah. I remember at the beginning of the year they did a drift week thing there, and I don't know what happened. but I know it was like a shit show, and they ended up shutting down their drift nights for like they closed it from like whenever Drift Week was. I want to say it was like in February, March. They had it
Mm,
blocked off all the way through like August or September. So it might
really.
barely have came back if they didn't leave it, if they didn't extend the non-drifting people. I guess what happened was someone like,
Someone hit the wall, like, or someone. I didn't
but
see
they
it.
grazed
There's
the wall
footage. They grazed the wall, and they wanted to charge him something like
like
fifteen hundred
$1,500.
dollars. Yeah, or
It's like for
something
some
like
paint.
along those lines.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, damn.
Yeah. I did see like in their calendar supposedly they're gonna fire Drift Night or Drift or whatever the drift thing that they had called. I think they're gonna start either next month in September, supposedly on their calendar. Like we go on their website.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I remember it was blocked off for a minute, so I wonder if
Yeah.
it's back yet. I mean, I like the track, but it's a bit excessive. I'm all for like
It is.
making their drivers pay for it, but trying to make a 1,500% profit on somebody's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, well, it's the thing I think is hilarious, and it's kind of ABS does this too. And I'm not knocking any of these tracks; they got to make money. I understand that because they probably pay a bunch in property taxes because of California, whatever. But when you're like, especially Adams, I would hold Adams more accountable than ABS because ABS doesn't draw as many spectators, but like Adams draws a bunch of spectators, right? So, or I shouldn't say a bunch, but a good decent crowd. So when you're charging the drivers not only like track rental or entry fee, whatever driving fee, now you're also taxing the driver on parking. And it's like, okay, that to me, that doesn't make sense. Like who's ever driving that night should just be, if you just want to charge the track fee, like track entry fee or just track rental, and then the spectators get charged parking, then cool. But when you're now double dipping, charging parking for both spectators and the drivers, that's something I don't agree with.
Yeah, and they're just like, well, you can go drive somewhere else. And people
Right.
have.
But then here's the thing. If all the drivers stood up and said, no, we're not going to pay your parking thing, then there's no drift night. But then the track can turn around and be like, okay, well, we're going to open this, or we're going to switch it to time attack guys. And like, we're going to have another motorsports thing. But then again, time attack doesn't draw the same crowd, or the go-kart stuff doesn't draw the same crowd or the amount of crowd that a drift night will pull.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I wonder if it does because I haven't gone to either. Have you?
I remember there was a night where they combined like the time attack and like drift night into one night. Yeah, it was like from X amount of hours. It was like time attack, and then they'd switch to drift, and then they go back and forth. But I've never been to just a go-kart event or just a like time attack event.
Yeah, neither have I. But I've actually driven at their where they brought the time attack and the drifting together.
Mm-hmm.
There was me going off into the fucking woods, and then the time attack guys just going right past me. Whatever happens.
Adam, whatever. Moving.
I actually
on.
did like that track though. Hopefully they're nicer to people, or maybe people are nicer to them. I don't know. I haven't decided whose side I was taking it. Hoonigan, you were doing that for a minute, right? What
was.
You were doing some shows with them too, like some build series, weren't you?
Yeah, I did the Hoonigan Build and Battle series. Me and Alex Grimm built that third gen Camaro for their Build and Battle Gymkhana style thing. And then it was me versus Soupy and I forget what his name is, but they built a 350Z with a K series in it, and then Micah Diaz ended up driving it. So yeah, did that with Hoonigan. Also did like different like build breakdowns with them with my own cars. Worked on Vin's car, caged one of his E46s, worked on a Vin's S chassis that he had a while back as well. So I did like a lot of stuff, both like in front of the camera and behind the camera for them, including the video that we did, Wood Wheel Burnouts, that got like a crazy amount of like views.
I remember that.
That was when Hoonigan was in trouble by the city, and that was right after the Aussie burnout cars like came out there, and that's what got them so much attention by the city that we were under very like we were being looked at by the city, and we couldn't do much. We couldn't make noise. We couldn't smoke anything out. Like we couldn't have loud cars because the school was complaining and stuff like that. So I remember during that week, that's when I was there, and we all sat in like our little war room of like, hey, what kind of content do we want to come up with for this week, or what do we want to shoot for this? And we kind of sat down. We all had a bunch of rules. Well, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this. So I just remember sitting there going, I remember some dude, I don't know where it was, put wood wheels on a car and just did burnouts, and I was like, oh, why don't we take our shit truck, put wood wheels on it, and just go do a burnout? It's not going to be loud, and it's not going to be like that smoky. So why not? And Brian Scotto is like, perfect, let's do it. You and Dan go to Home Depot, go get plywood, get all the supplies or whatever. And we ended up, me and Dan, getting in Brian Scotto's wife's car or truck, going over to Home Depot, getting sheets of plywood, gluing them all together, then cutting a big wood wheel, drilling holes. And then at the time, we didn't want to do it at the yard or at the donut garage because, again, we just didn't want to get in trouble. 1552 offered to use the back of their shop. So we ended up like making the wood wheels at the donut garage, putting the truck on the trailer, taking it to 1552 and shooting that video. And it got something ridiculous, dude. I think it's up to like 2.5 million views or 3 million views or something like that. And then at the same time, we did the rally car, and we put it in a bed of dish soap, and that got a crazy amount of views. Also did that at 1552. That was another thing I had a little part in. But yeah, that's my only real claim to fame was just wood wheel burnout.
Oh wait, no, I remember Larry Chen put the Camaro on his page too when you were drifting Horse Thief Mile.
Yeah. He chased me. It was at All Star Bash. I took the Camaro to All Star Bash, and I remember him showing up with his, I forget what he called, Orange Bang, his Datsun. Had a camera rig all mounted up. He's like, Josh, here, I want to chase you. I'm like, I'm down. He was just telling me, he's like, just don't tire dip. Dude, for the love of God, don't tire dip. Because if I was, I would shoot rocks all over his car. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I'm not trying to go crazy with Camaro anyway. Car barely wants to drift anyway. So, he chased me at Horse Thief Mile. Still got footage of it. It was real fun.
You think that car made you drive a lot better when you got into like a serious car?
Because 100%.
I'll say this: you went from like you did well in the Mustang, but then you built the 240. I think you did a couple test days in it, and then you re-licensed at Just Drift that year. And the same shit with the fucking your E92 now. When was the last time you drove? Before you put this thing back together?
Oh, before I put the E92 together?
Mm-hmm.
I would say competitively, probably 2.5 years. So it's like, I learned how to. That was a Just Drift shootout or a Top Drift shootout.
Yeah.
It was, I think, in 2009.
I think it was 2020.
Oh, no, 9. What am I saying? 2019. Or it might have been 2020. I think the trophy's like here.
That was 2020. Because I remember it was COVID here.
It was 2020. It was 2020. So the last time I drifted competitively was 2020, and then so learned in the Camaro, went to the Mustang, got my FD Pro 2 license in the Mustang, then built the S chassis thinking it was going to be more competitive or a more better drift car, which it was in certain amount of ways over the Mustang, but then I couldn't get used to the wheelbase. So then took a long break, sold the car to Don Shredda, which is now his car that he competes in. I sold it to him as a roller. Yeah, the Shreddinator. So sold that car as a roller to him. And then I ended up putting the car together for him, which he's competing in now. Yeah, that's when I got back from Tennessee. And then went to a Hot Pit Auto Fest event last year, round 3, and instantly got my wheels turning. I missed the smells. I missed the competitiveness. I missed driving. And I was up in the stands at round 3 last year. shopping for an E92 or an E46. It was like I didn't know if I wanted to do E46 or E92. I was leaning more towards E92 just because I like E92s better, and I think everybody kind of has an E46.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really a, how do I say it? I think a trailing arm works, but I don't know. I like multi-link, so there I was shopping for an E92. I found the E92 literally in the grandstands at round 3, and then that following weekend, I was driving up to Ojai to go buy the car.
Nice. What'd you get for? How much you pay for the car? Was it running when you bought it?
No, it was a roller. So it was
Oh,
it was a complete car other than no engine, no trans. So what happened was it was a 335 '07 that the guy, he put like some gnarly turbos on it in a tune, and he was drag racing with it, and he blew the motor up. And when he blew the motor up, like he took the engine and trans out, put like an LS in it, and then it never got an LS. It sat in front of his yard for, I don't know, something like 4 or 5 years. And then finally he decided to sell it because he ended up buying like some gnarly Corvette, and his Corvette was there when I saw it. But I
gotcha.
bought the car for $2,000. And it was immaculate, dude. Like the paint was like surprisingly like really nice, and then all the interior was in there. The interior was like super pristine, so I was able to take a lot of the parts out of the car to somewhat recuperate the $2,000 investment I put into it. I probably could have got something cheaper, like say, I don't know, like on Copart or something like that, but the guy originally wanted like $3,000 for it, and I took him down to 2, and he was just like, all right, just bring a trailer, and I'm like, okay. And it was clean title. Not that I was ever going to street it, but I just
It's
knew
nice to know that it is.
it was. Yeah, it's nice to know that it is, and I knew that it was a straight chassis. Like all the bare bones were there. Like I knew I was going to cut all the crap out, but at least I was starting with a good platform.
Yeah. How long did it take you to build that thing from start to finish?
Roughly about 7 to 8 months. I was doing like 300 miles an hour, dude. Like, because, like I said, during round 3, that's where I was like, okay, I want to do hot pit next year. And during round 3 gave me like I think a 10 to 11 month window to like build a car. Well, that following weekend, I bought the E92, and then I already had the engine, I already had the transmission, I already had the 4 9-inch diff, and I had like an ECU, I had the wiring harness for the engine. Mm-hmm. So all I really needed was a car, front suspension, rear suspension, coilovers, wheels, and I already had seats. I needed to either buy or make a fuel cell. I ended up making the fuel cell. Already had all the dry sump tank and everything. So I already had like a lot of the stuff. So that's another reason why I was able to get the car done as quick as I did, because I literally already had everything. And then I utilized my connections with, Extreme Dimensions for the body kit, Wisefab for the suspension, the front angle kit, the rear suspension kit, and then Feel for all the coilovers and stuff like that. So they helped me out a bunch, to get the car done. It was just the only thing was the fab work is what took the majority of the time, and like the wiring and the plumbing realistically took the majority of the time in the build.
Oh, that's right. You have a dry sump setup, so those take a little bit of time compared to.
Dude, it's a lot, and it's like it's all -16 lines. Like you have in my setup. I mean, there's different dry sump setups where they run a lot more scavenge lines or just one scavenge line. The way mine is, it's a daily engineering dry sump setup, so I have 2 -16 scavenge lines that both are parallel all the way into the dry sump tank, and then I have 1 -16 for the feed, which goes from -16 from the tank to the pump, and then from the pump it goes like -12 to an oil filter. From the oil filter it goes directly into the engine. I run no engine oil cooler, just for the simple reason it's dry sump, because that oil gets pulled out of the motor and it gives it a chance to actually cool down. If you're
is it because it has so much travel already?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and I have a temp gauge in it too, and I monitor temps, and it doesn't go, I don't see oil temps, even if I'm like doing well and I'm kind of back to back running. The highest oil temp I saw, I think, was like 238, which is, right in the ballpark. No, it's not terrible. So and I run good oil in it. So, and my oil pressure does not go anything below, even when it's hot, 50 psi, and then cold start, you're seeing about 90, and then once it warms up, kind of finds a little happy medium in between like 60 to 70, stuff like that.
Mm.
So, and then I run, what did I put in there last? 10W40. Yeah, I run 10W40. I used to run 5W50. That worked pretty well, but on the 50 side of things, I was seeing too much oil pressure. So I changed it and made it 40, and that kind of, I think, gave me a good window of like 60 to 70 psi oil pressure.
Gotcha. I'm taking all these notes down from my car. Now, when did you get back from Tennessee?
I think like 2 years ago. Yeah, I'd say roughly about 2 years ago, or maybe just almost 2 years ago. I didn't go for a very long time. I left and I was there for 6 months. I know, right? Like, and then when I see everybody's kids, when I see them post up their, happy birthday, their kids, and I'm like, dude, I remember when that kid was born. Now that kid, I'm not a very tall guy, and now that little boy, little girl, they're like the same height as me. I'm like, seriously? Serious?
Yeah, dude, my kid too, man. He just turned 12, and I'm like, fucking Christ. I'm like, can you reach the pedals yet? Let's get you in this car and see how you do.
Are you still there? There you go. You cut it. You paused for a second. My bad.
Yeah, you did earlier too, and I was just like, please don't fuck up again.
Yeah, please work. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I was
saying, we're talking about kids. They grow up fast, dude. Even your kids. Man. Your kid's grown up fast.
I don't know if you've seen him lately. Maybe you'll see him this summer or whenever.
I think
you'll see him at Irwindale. He'll be at Irwindale with me.
Oh, heck yeah.
Dude, yeah. I don't know. Last time you saw him, what was I'm gonna assume at the Drift League in 2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, now he's 12 and an asshole. Not an asshole, but, 12. He has his own personality now, for sure.
Right. So,
I
think we all had quite the asshole personality when we were like
at 12. Yeah, that's when you're like pissed off at the world for nothing.
Right. Like all of us.
He's like, "Can you stop breathing so loud?" I'm like, "I can try."
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, he didn't say that, but it's just. It's
but that's the look he's giving you, like.
Yeah, keep it down, old man. That's what I'm hearing. I was saying something earlier about you getting from like the S14 to then jumping into this car now, and then I had asked you the last time you drove. You said it was like 2.5 years. But even then, it's still. You came back in this car and did really well for your first time out. For only, would you test it 2 or 3 times before hot pit round? Was that 2? Yeah, that was round 2.
Yeah, right? I did. Yeah, I didn't make it to round 1. I tried, I remember that, but I could have. And Jeff Jones kept telling me, "Oh, just sling it together, and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I love you, bro, but no, I'm not just gonna like slang this car together and go throw at a wall." So yeah, I debuted the car at round 2. Yeah, like at hot pit, and like I only tested the car twice. I only drove the car twice. But going into that car, I felt literally at home, and I think it's just that 108-inch wheelbase for some reason to me just feels so good. I know with the S14, I was always like having to dial the side bite in or dial the grip and the this and the that, and I never got comfortable in that car. I loved driving it, but it didn't fit me. It didn't fit my driving style. And then hopping into the E92, even on the first test day, I was like, dude, this thing feels like, my Mustang, but on steroids, or my Camaro, but on steroids. Like, but it just, for some reason, man, I just love that 108-inch wheelbase. It's just, it feels right to me. And I know it's all that, but I know it's driver preference. So don't anybody think like, oh, well, 108-inch is like the way to go. Well, you may drive a 108-inch wheelbase and absolutely hate it. Just like I'll never drive a 100-inch wheelbase car ever again. But that's just driver preference.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people who are like, "Oh, I don't want to tell you my setup," and it wouldn't necessarily work for like whatever works for you. Like, for
Hmm.
instance, I'm building the same car, right? So I wouldn't ask you for your setup. I'd probably ask you where to start, and then I'd fine tune it myself.
Hmm.
But let's just say vice versa. If you gave me your exact setup, I'd be like, "Oh, this setup sucks for me."
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
completely
See,
different.
yeah, like I remember when I first built the car, when I was first building the E92, I was like,
Hmm.
I'm going to be devious and I'm not going to tell anybody anything and I'm going to
Yeah,
keep it all secret. Everything's going to be a secret. The horsepower is
yeah,
going to be a secret. And then over time, I kind of grew out of that mentality. And I also realized that, like, Josh, you could literally tell everybody your setup and they can, like what you said, they can go out and use the same spring rates as me, the same valving as me with the same horsepower and the same tire, and they can be like, wow, I don't know how Josh drives this car. This is the worst setup I've ever driven in my life. When I'm
yeah.
going to turn around and say, well, this is the most best setup I've ever driven in my life. It's like that's the thing about like drifting. It's such a driver preference thing, but also too, there's so many other different factors that play into that. Like for example, you could have the same spring rates as me, but your
Hmm.
alignment can be completely different.
Yep.
Like for example, I run like zero toe in the front and I run a crap ton of toe in the rear. And you may only be comfortable with a certain amount of toe in the rear and you drive with a 1/4 inch toe out in the front and you're using the same spring rate as me, well, it's going to feel completely different. So it's like people think it's just spring rates and it's just valving and it's just tires. It's like, dude, it's so many different
Variables.
factors that yeah,
Yeah.
very thank you. It's so many different variables that really make it. I mean, even I've heard of stories of like engine builders. You can literally have the guy that builds two identical engines, like literally identical engines. They go both get put on the dyno and they put out different amounts of power. It's like, I don't know. It's maybe one day he wasn't drinking that day when he built that motor, and maybe that day he was
Yeah.
just drinking coffee. When it's like, you know,
Yeah. And the day he had beers, he had a extra 100 horsepower somehow.
yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Moral of the story:
yeah,
drink more beer.
yeah. I mean, when I built my Mustang, I was practically drunk the entire time.
Hey, hey,
not really proud, not really proud of it, but you know.
as a highly functioning alcoholic, I fucking hear you. Actually, but I can't drink and get anything done. So as soon as I crack a beer open in the garage, that's I probably got like an hour left in me of
Right.
actual work
Or
getting
it's
done,
like
and then that's it.
I think it's by like beer number 4. It's like in between beer number 1 and beer number 4, you're still really motivated and you're still working. But after beer number 4, you're just like, no, I just want to sit here and stare at it and drink beer.
Yeah, I thought I was the only one. All right, cool. That's funny. Yeah, it's especially like I have a customer car here that's been haunting my entire life. I'll never work on anybody's car again. Um, but I had that GTO here I was telling you about a while ago. It's finally
Hmm.
running, and it goes into
Nice.
gear and it goes into reverse and drive, but the pump makes a bunch of noise when you start it.
Oh boy.
Yep. Oh, and the headers were glowing red hot at idle, so it's running super lean.
Boy.
So, yep, got to get a new tune in it. I
Yeah.
hate I hate people's cars. I hate
That's
them.
one thing, dude. Like anytime I was doing work for like other people in my shop, I did not mess. I would always tell everybody, I'm not touching your electrical. Yeah, but Josh, like, you
Nope.
wired in your ECU and you wired, all your whatever, and like, oh, like, and I'm just like, no. Like when I assembled Don's car, I like, I was like, Don, I'll put the engine and trans in it. I'll literally get it to where this car is ready for wiring. I'll do the plumbing, but I will not do the wiring. You're going to have to either take the car, like not running with no wiring in it, or, if you have a wiring guy that wants to come in here and wire, like, cool. But other than that, I want zero responsibility for wiring because I do not have the patience to diagnose electrical issues. The only time I would have patience to diagnose electrical issues if they were my own. But
Yeah,
Derek
that's fair.
Klug, Derek Klug built me such a awesome electrical panel like in my car that I still use till this day. I took it out of the S chassis and I kept it and put it on the E92, and I have, thank God, zero electrical issues. So that's, good. Although I'm kind of having an electrical issue where I noticed in this last round I don't have enough alternator. So I'm still using the 2001 uh, Camaro alternator, which only makes like 108 amps or something like that. So I'm literally at a point where I can't run my headlights and my underglow at the same time, because if I do, it's going to shut the motor off.
Oh, dude.
It's that bad. Like, it's that I need a bigger alternator. Like, I need to order an alternator like
I'm pretty
literally
sure.
like tomorrow.
But if you're using that, I'm assuming it's in a bolt up situation. I'm sure you can buy like a higher output alternator for that same setup.
Yeah, I mean, or the other thing is I haven't really even checked to see if that alternator is even producing that many amps. I mean, I've been abusing that alternator in the S14 for since I built the S14. So maybe it's just going out too. I don't know. I'll have to double check it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
let's talk about Hot Pit, man.
Hot Pit.
How do you like it?
What you want to know? I love Hot Pit.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little hater last year because they said no, I couldn't drive, so I didn't go to any of them. But I went because you asked me to go to round 2, so I went. But man, I fucking love it.
Hot Pit's rad.
Yeah, they did it right. Like with like everything they have going on, the comp, the drivers. I get why they said no.
Yeah,
like it's a good show.
Yeah, well, it's like like Hot Pit. It literally did everything, and I'm not trying to talk crap on the Drift League. I think the Drift League was awesome at the time, but there was also things that I was trying to get them to do and they weren't doing. So Hot Pit really did a lot of things that the Drift League should have done, but then at the same time, I just love the fact of Hot Pit, for one, it's minimal to no rules. You could show up with a tube chassis, which is sick, like absolutely sick. You want to change pivot points, you want to do this, you want to run side exit exhaust like how I run my E92, like have at it. Like, and that's how, me personally, when I got into drifting was such an outlawed, like it was such an outlaw class. Like there was little to no restrictions on car. Versus fast forward now, Formula Drift is basically, in my opinion, a Miata spec class at this point.
For like pro spec.
Yeah, like stock pedals and whatever. Now I'm going off on a different tangent. But Hot Pit, it's so cool because it's such an outlaw thing. All they require is just safety, and they limit it to a 300 treadwear tire, and also the width of 260. But if you want to show up with a tube chassis, cool, have at it. And then the other biggest thing is that their live streams are super awesome. And that's what I was always leaning on the Drift League, like, dude, do a live stream. And then it was always like, oh, we don't have the budget for that. It's like, okay, then just set up one camera with one camera guy at the top, just to let people know we exist. And what Hot Pit's doing is really doing a great job trying to make the drivers look like rock stars and promote the drivers as much as possible. The Drift League really didn't do that as much. And I think that's what making it so appealing to a lot of different drivers, not only in California, like all over the United States. I'm even hearing through, RJ and Jeff and Rob, that there's a lot of drivers, like even pro guys, that are probably going to be showing up round 5 and also definitely showing up next year. So, I love Hot Pit, dude. I love that it's, Jeff is obviously a driver. RJ is obviously a driver. Rob's been very experienced with, having drift events. So they know how to run a drift comp. Like, it's not like, people that came from road racing and are just, oh, hey, let's start a drift comp. And they know nothing about drifting. It's like, these are people that are seasoned in drifting, been around it for years. They know how to organize the event and how to make this succeed. And I'm so pumped about what they're doing. When I found out that the series was coming out, I was like, okay, great. Now I need to build another car.
Yeah, they saw where like other series are like falling short and kind of picked
Yeah.
up from there.
Yeah. Well, like clutch kickers. Now clutch kickers is no. That was the other thing. Like when before Hop Pit, there was clutch kickers, which again the format was the exact same. Although there was no rules as far as car, and there was no rules on tire. Like I remember going to clutch kickers one of the years, and there was no tire regulation. You could run a 315 180 tread wear, like, or you could run a 255 whatever. Like there was no tire rules like whatsoever. And then even when
That's
they
wild.
checked my car, it was pretty much like, well, you got a roll cage and you got a helmet and a suit. Cool, go there. You go. You passed tech. Oh, all right. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
that's,
But then
that's pretty wild.
I mean, it's cool, but I think with the tire thing, then I know a lot of people kind of like, there were certain issues where certain drivers showed up with these gnarly tires, and then there's other drivers that couldn't afford the gnarly tires. So that kind of made it a little bit of an interesting situation, and I empathize with that. But that's where I think Hot Pit closed the door on that and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to regulate the tire. I don't care who you are. Everyone needs to run a 265, 300 tread wear. And me personally, I like that. Just don't regulate the car or the actual engineering of the car itself. Still make the car safe and regulate it to where the cage is actually fully welded and stuff like that. But don't tell me that I can't like run an aftermarket steering column or aftermarket pedals or change pivot points or run side exit exhaust. Like, I don't know. I massively disagree with stuff like that.
I love side exit exhaust. I like it right before the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Oh, like what was it? Dustin Farrell was like, dude, I love your exhaust, but I hate your exhaust. I was like, oh, why?
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
don't
because he's like, when I'm on your door, I don't even hear my car. I just hear your car, and it's just like, in my face.
Yeah.
Like, V8 things,
your
bro.
car's fucking loud, dude. Your car's like between yours and fucking John's car, Schaefer's car.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have the loudest cars there. At least the V8 cars. I was expecting a little bit more from the Mustangs because of JTPs. Like his sounds really good, but they sound nothing like what they sound like. Nothing like JTPs at all. I know it's kind of a letdown. But yeah, yours and his are pretty wild. They don't. There's only like 2 J's there, huh? Between it's for Hop Pit, like just 2 J drivers and LS drivers. I haven't heard anybody else's motor besides like the two Mustangs.
I mean, there's Mustangs. Those
Is
are
anybody
Coyotes.
there on an RB?
I don't think
so either.
I don't think any. Yeah, I think it's all JZ, LS, Rotary, Coyotes,
Maybe
and
VQ. VQ.
Someone's VQ. You're right, and then an SR. Someone's running an SR.
Someone's running an SR. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, someone's running an SR, but I forget. Oh, it was it Riley Mercado in the black S13 hatch? I think. I could be wrong, but there's for sure someone's running an SR, and I think even Nanami is running an SR too.
Who's Nanami? Is that
the girl driver from Japan?
That's what. Okay, that's who I thought. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I love the way SRs sound. I'm not into Japanese engines at all, but the SR does sound good. I'm not gonna lie.
I think if I was to be a non-LS guy, I think I would do. I don't know. I'd still go V8. I'd probably be like a BMW S65 guy, but if I use a BMW S65, that motor is not going to be reliable. I'm going to work on it more than drive it.
if LS wasn't there, I would have a Chevy small block in it.
That would be sick.
Yeah, and I don't know if I ended up down a fucking rabbit hole not too long ago. So they make
Chevy stuff?
Yeah, so they basically make a Chevy small block with LS heads that bolt onto it. Yeah. So
what?
And exactly. It's not cheap, by the way.
Just
the block itself. So you get the.
Who makes the block?
I think it's. I don't want to say it's Dart. It might be Dart, but don't quote me on that.
RHS. I'm gonna look this up because that sounds sick.
Yeah,
I would be totally signed up for that.
Fucking TikTok, man. These fucking assholes know everything. Anyways,
Well,
it's
like,
you can even
yeah,
convert it
sorry.
to distributor setup. And you,
I hate distributors, dude.
I
From
so do
my
I.
small block Chevy and
It's
the
just an option.
Camaro,
Just an option.
yeah, it would have to
What
be like crank trigger.
I'd really want to do is take like an old Chevy small block setup, and then do the they have it where you can put like the LS coil packs on it. You get rid of the distributor.
Mm,
I mean, you use like the
yeah.
distributor input like on the back of the motor on the small block, because that's where you're
Mm,
gonna put like for your timing stuff, kind of like your cam
yeah.
sensor, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it knows when to fire off, and then you get all the goodies from multi-point electronics. So,
Hmm.
which is a lot better
Although,
than distributor.
yeah, although even I think it'd be cool. It would be really, really cool just to say like, oh, this is a small block and not technically an LS.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
from my understanding, I think, don't quote me on this, I think if you were to weigh like an iron small block Chevy block and you weigh an iron LS block, I'm pretty sure the LS block itself is lighter than the small block Chevy. Like I'm pretty sure. It's probably not much. I think it's like 30 pounds or something like that. But
Hey man, 30 pounds is a lot.
yeah.
It's it's a lot when you
Mm-hmm.
get to like certain areas, especially if you're trying to like get to a certain limit of weight. It's a lot. I think I took like when I had that Cadillac, I took so much metal out of that car, like like where the seatbelts would bolt in. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that those little spot weld tools you showed me? Oh, I
Oh
bought
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
I got to work. I was there in there for
Oh
like
yeah.
2 days pulling a whole bunch of stuff out, and I got like 30 pounds
Mm-hmm.
of metal out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you sit there and you look at this pile of metal and you kind of slightly pick it up and you're like, wow, there's
yeah.
a
Even
bunch
like
of unnecessary crap.
the stock seat brackets. You know how like
Mm-hmm.
they'll kind of hold inside of the floorboard, and then also on the rocker panel and on the trans tunnel. I took those two out as well, and then just welded in some square tubing across with like a plate on it to each side,
Yeah.
because it still brought the weight down a little bit, and it was only like
Yeah.
probably like 2 pounds when you did a wall, but that car weighed so much. I was like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's a cool
Exactly.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Did,
like it's wild, dude. Like it's cool to see like stuff like that. Like if you like when you're concentrated on taking weight out of the car or
Mhm.
like engine package or like what we were talking about technical wise, like oh this setup, like how do I say it? Like even though if you have my setup, it's not going to work with you or whatever. But people, I think the other biggest thing that I learned this year actually is no matter what setup you have or how gripped up you are, how loose your car is or whatever chassis you are, but if you don't have your mindset like right, like you won't be competitive. And when I say mindset, like my biggest learning curve this year, just being in the car the last couple of rounds, I've learned to be calm in the car, be relaxed, and don't. I know it sounds weird, but don't take this lap or this competitor seriously. Just go out there and just have fun, and it takes so much of the stress off of driving. It's nuts. It's
Yeah,
nuts.
like you're here for a good time. I think
Yeah.
some people don't really kind of see that the same way when it comes to like competition,
Mhm.
where they become like a nervous Nelly. You know, you know that the hair on their arms is raised.
Oh,
You know what I
you
mean?
paused on me.
And they're driving
Oh
like
no, I got
shit.
you.
Uh,
I got you. I got you now.
yeah, when people are like driving like a nervous Nelly and they start driving like shit, when you know they're
Mhm.
a good driver outside of
Mhm.
like comp, that happens a lot too.
Yeah. Well, it's like when there was a certain driver that I drove against, during uh round 3 that I absolutely wanted to beat so bad, like so bad. I was like, this dude is going down. But I had to sit there and go, help, Josh, you're going to have to calm down. You're just going to have to relax. This is just another lap. Like, let it go. Like, get all that anger and all that pent up. Like, just calm. This is what you need to do. Like, go do it. And dude, drifting is such a mental game. Like, even
Absolutely.
what I do lately is I've been going on YouTube and I just type in like winning mindsets from different athletes, dude. It doesn't matter whether you're drifting, playing basketball, baseball, a NASCAR driver, you're Lewis Hamilton, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize the amount of importance when it comes down to getting your mindset right, like in the car. Like it's wild, dude. It really, really is.
Yeah, I can see that, especially with like having like that motivation, like you have it in the back of your mind. I mean, some people. I'm not the type of person to do it. I'll be honest. Like I'm not going to listen to a motivational speaker or something on the way to the racetrack. But I can see how having that on your mind and kind of have that repetitiveness of like the positivity to going in with that, like with that positivity on in the back of your mind, like I'm here for a good time, and anybody who's having a good time is usually doing well. I think that's something I've said before plenty of times. When you're having fun, you're usually doing well. I think anybody who's ever won, no one's ever been like, this fucking sucked. Winning is shit. Like, no one's ever been upset about it. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, there actually was one time that I had to use this as a huge learning experience where I did get second place at the shootout against John Schaefer, and we both made mistakes. I think I still to this day believe that I should have took first, but it is what it is. We laugh about it later. It's not a big deal. But at that time, when I got second place, like I was so heated. I was so pissed off. I was so like, oh, that should have been mine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it took all the fun out of it. I almost like robbed myself of the joy of even just being on the podium. And now it's like, I can't be like that anymore. Because at the time I was taking it too seriously. It's not fun anymore. And don't get me wrong, when I say like I'm listening to YouTube videos about winning mindsets, it's not like I'm listening to that YouTube video on the way to the track. It's just everything that you do during the week. Like, I always try to listen to something that can help better me, either just in life or also in drifting. And sometimes it's like, dude, sometimes I listen to a bunch of stuff and I get absolutely nothing. And it's normal, right? But then there's some times where I'm just like, wow, like I didn't think of that. I didn't even think about actually just sitting there and maybe just right before a run, just kind of put your head down and just kind of close your eyes, just take a deep breath and just kind of find yourself a little happy place. And it's amazing how much those little things do to really like calm the nerves and just to like, relax. Because I mean, in my entire drifting career, I never qualified good, ever. I was always qualifying mid-pack or the bottom of the pack. And then when I kind of use these mind techniques that I kind of learned, next thing I know, I'm sitting in first place before 30 drivers, and there's another 10. And then in this last event, qualified second place. Ben Hobson got me by 1 point. But I look back at it, that dirty dog. But I look back at it now and I'm just like, wow, it's a mental game, man. The more calm you are, the better you drive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, man, the anxiety, that really fucks with you.
Oh, it's real, dude.
Yeah,
it's real.
I've done it too when like if there's just an event with like there's a lot of people there and I'm in this fucking stupid Cadillac, everyone's expecting you to do well or want to see what it does, and then you go off into the dirt.
You can't like, you have to 86 all that.
Yeah.
Like you literally, it's like,
it worked at the end. Worked at the end.
Yeah.
That's when I gave up on it.
But you gotta find that
I can make it work.
Yeah, you got to find that tunnel vision, dude, where there's nobody in the stands, no one's watching you, it's just you.
Yeah, it did work at the end. Love the thing, but it was just like I had to like be real with myself. I'm like, you're not an engineer. You need to get out of this fucking car and go buy something that you can bolt onto it. That's all it was. And then I saw you drive round 2. Yeah, round 2. And that was when I made the decision. I was like, that's it. I can't be in this fucking car anymore. It's not gonna happen.
Bolt on stuff.
I felt like. Have you ever seen Mean Girls?
Come
on! You're a millennial. Anyways, I feel like Gretchen, and I'm never gonna make fetch happen with that fucking car. Uh,
I mean, I've seen the Devil Wears Prada.
oh, I can't think of anything. I've seen that a million times too, but one's more millennial iconic. Um, yeah, man. So now we're gonna build this shit show and keep our fingers crossed. Actually,
Yeah,
did you
dude.
see it?
The E90? Yeah, I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
it. I think I saw RJ posted a picture of something, or
yeah.
somebody posted a picture of it. Even when they were
Uh,
picking up stuff, like Derek, he was picking up his panels for his E92, and he shot a picture of like your car. It's like, oh look, Joe's car.
yeah, yeah. It's almost done. I think they just finished like the final design, so they're gonna be working on doing the molds within the next couple of weeks. Because he's like,
Mhm.
hey, because I told him I wanted to go up there to go remove all the interior because I haven't really been able to work on it since I got it. I was like, hey, can I go up and go like pull all the interior out? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And then he called me yesterday. He's like, hey, when are you coming to go pull this interior? I was like, I can't be there for another 2 weeks. And he's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, we need to mold it now. And I was like, I was wondering if you could take that door handle off while you were here. So I was like, if you take it off, just throw it in the back seat and keep the hardware, please.
Right.
No, cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, it's almost done. I know they're gonna do the molding. I mean, I'm hoping to have it by within what is it about to be September. I'm hoping to have it by November. We'll see what happens. We'll
Nice.
see. Maybe because it's I'm not doing what you did. You went all out. I'm just putting the fucking car together. I got a cage kits for it. Gonna glue it in and or JB weld it in and hope for the
Works.
best.
I mean, I wouldn't JB weld it, but like cage kit,
Yeah,
like, dude, it works. Like,
yeah, yeah. We'll see. I still have to do like the back half though, because that takes time. We'll see how that gets
yeah.
set up. Actually, did you do a firewall in the back? Or you built like that enclosure, huh?
I built like an aluminum enclosure that houses like, or that seals off the fuel cell and the battery and the dry sump.
I'm
So
thinking
that's
about
all
doing
like
it.
completely like.
I'm thinking about doing it just behind the driver, like right after the cage, and just
You do
sealing it.
that?
I'm thinking about. I'm on the fence about it because there's also then it's like you're kind of. I feel like it would get super hot.
Maybe, yeah, because now the space is like smaller. It
Yeah,
might
and
make
you
you
have like
feel
that
like you're
metal.
driving. Yeah, it like it. I never liked the feeling of driving like a single cab pickup truck.
That's what it would feel like. Yeah,
Like,
that's how
because
I
you
feel
can
about it.
kind of like in an extra cab, you can kind of lean back. In a single
Yeah.
cab, I feel like you're just hugging the wheel.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Um,
hmm
with this comp, do you ever plan on doing pro spec, or would you go to pro spec?
I'm so like 50-50. Well, like for one, I don't agree with the pro spec rules. That's something I'm gonna have to swallow, which sucks. If I do
It's
pro spec and
do you,
I build another car, because like I can't use my E92. That thing's so cut up. You know, I built it for hot fit and I built it for like clutch kickers and then all these kind of like 50K shootout money grab deals. So I can't use my chassis. I'd have to get another E92 and literally build it around the FD rulebook. Um, there's some
what would be
days
illegal on your chassis? Other let's throw the pedals and the steering column out the window. What would be illegal
mhm,
on the chassis on yours?
the side exit exhaust.
That's a simple
Yeah.
exhaust fix.
Uh, yeah. Well, but I did channel the floor. I cut the whole floor and I channeled literally I cut the whole floor of that car out just for that exhaust.
Just tell Kevin it was in a
I
wreck.
also And then I also did cut a pretty decent sized piece of the frame, like
Hmm.
out of the firewall, so that I could scoot the motor back. So that's like another thing.
Ah,
Um, yeah.
okay.
And then I haven't done it yet, but I was gonna make some suspension mods to the back of the subframe that was gonna be completely illegal. Like I said, I haven't done it yet, but that car it's practically there's no way. Like I literally have to start with a whole new car.
Yeah, that's and then doing a part swap to a new car after all of the fab work, it's unrealistic sometimes. Or no.
It's like, well, there's a big beetle in my shop.
Is it the green one?
No, it's one of the green ones, dude.
Yeah,
Dang it.
I had my girlfriend fucking kick one out earlier today.
Got him.
There you go. Better you than me. Dude, there was one in my my little entryway.
While
in
I
my
was
house.
talking about that, I was watching him. I was watching him fly around, and I'm like, dude.
I
that
thought I
dude's
heard
gonna
something
land on my
earlier,
head.
and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, it was him, and I'm just sitting there, and finally he made his way over here, and I'm like, this dude's gonna land on my head. I better get him now, like, because they always
It's the
land
lights,
on me
dude.
everywhere.
It's the lights.
Hopefully he's like
Dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, sorry, dude. Sorry, but I don't like bugs.
That
like
makes
bugs.
two of us.
I don't.
That makes two of us.
There, now I feel so much better. I'm relaxed.
But
so we interviewed Josh, and he was just killing bugs in his shop this entire
yeah.
time.
Oh, so okay. So your firewall is going to be an issue for FD.
Firewall,
so you would have to build a whole
floorboard.
fucking car.
Yeah, and then on top of that, because I cut a lot of the floorboard out in between, like the rear seat, like from the rear seat position to literally the rear section of the subframe. That's all. I replaced it all with like aluminum to take weight out of the car.
There's
so a lot of that
weird...
floor.
Yeah,
there's like not a whole lot of stock floorboard in the back of that car, like, to be honest. So
there's some weird rules in FD. Like I noticed, so like on an S14, right? Like I noticed a lot of guys above the diff, they'll cut that floor out and put a fuel cell in there.
Right.
That's in between the quote unquote the furthest point of the rear suspension and the front suspension. Or
well, it's like
have you seen Michael S's E46? He cut the back out on the floor and put a fuel cell in there.
Yeah.
And then just boxed around it. So I think you might get away with that, but the firewall, you're fucked.
I'd have to, if I was to go into it and actually like legit build an E92, I would raise a couple of questions to Kevin and try to replicate my car as much as I possibly could, as far as like where I put the fuel cell and the dry sump tank and stuff like that, try to mimic it. But you are right. Like I have seen cars where they do cut the floors out for things like that. Even my S14 was all FD legal. And still I cut the floor out, like, and I put that, what was it, like a 10-gallon radium fuel cell, like right above the diff, and that whole section had to be cut out, and it was massive, dude. Like, it was a bunch out of the floor, but that was okay. So
it's a pretty large piece.
It's like, if that's okay, then how come what I did in the back of the E92 is potentially not okay? Like, I don't know. Like, I'd have to, like, legit shoot pictures of what I've done to it to Kevin and go, hey, Kevin, is this okay? Can I do this in like a pro spec car? Like,
if he asks you, was this car in a wreck and this is what you did to repair it, just say yes.
Yeah, it is true.
Just say yes.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm going to have a very, very hard time with is the whole factory pedal / factory steering column thing, because in my car now, I sit so far back into that car, dude. Like, I sit really, really far back where it's almost like a pro stock drag car, but that's how I like to drive. That's even how I did the S14. I scooted the seat all the way back. Like, I just like to sit.
And you brought the
really
pedals to
back.
you, right?
Yeah, I brought the wheel and the pedals up to me because I'm using a Tilton pedal box, and then the steering column that I use, it's actually made by a road company. They were called Blitzkrieg Motorsports. They make like free runners, trophy trucks and stuff. They make this bitch in like DOM tube that's machined for two bearings that goes on each side, and then they have a machine shaft that it's splined on this end, and then you can add whatever end, it's like a 3/4 inch shaft where you can add like a sweet manufacturing quick disconnect or an NRG or whatever it may be. I put that in the car, and you can put that literally wherever, because you just weld to the housing, obviously, like take the bearings out, square them up, but you can just weld to the housing, and then boom, you have a column. And it's super cheap. It's like $140. So it's like for FD to say, oh, well, we're trying to minimize costs. Okay, so not everybody can afford a $400 pedal box, but yet they're putting a $50,000 motor in their car. Or it's like, oh, well, they don't want to put a $900 sweet manufacturing steering column in the car, but you can go out and get a $140 Blitzkrieg machined column. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me as far as like the savings, the money savings, but that would be something that would be difficult for me to get used to driving wise, because now I'd feel like I'm hugging the steering wheel like NASCAR. You know, I'd be like, dude, how come I'm like the windshield's right here when typically the windshield's like further away, you know? It'd be a weird thing.
I think I agree with you on that, the savings part. I don't like that they use that word for various reasons, because, for instance, like you have to run a link, right? Now, I don't know if you get a discount if you get your Pro Spec license. You're allowed to run the link at a discounted price.
I think they give it to you for free.
I don't know if that's true. If it's true, awesome. That's fucking great. But let's assume it's not, right? Now you have to spend $1,700 on an ECU. That's on the low end. That's not including a wire harness. The wiring harness is going to be another $1,500. I think wired. We'll talk about for our situation. LS Link ECU. They make one for like $1,500. Looking at $3,000 right there. And then if you want to run a dash setup, you have to buy their dash setup. That's like what, another $1,000?
Yeah, it literally like, oh, we're trying to save money, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and then for example, for guys like me that are so heavily invested into like Haltech, like I've had zero issues with, you know, my Haltech setup. I know what, you know, how it should be wired and what it likes and what it doesn't like and stuff. And then Andrew over at Animal Auto, like, always gets me set up with a full tune and always knows how to diagnose things and everything. It's like, dude, I have a well-oiled machine. So now you're saying I have to take my well-oiled machine apart to go put in some other device that I have zero experience with, and I have to relearn. Like, it's I don't know. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Like,
yeah, Link, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying you guys have a shit product. I'm just saying I don't have money for it. Those are two different things. Because I have the fucking Holley Terminator. That was like a $1,200 when I bought it.
Yeah, but it's like, it's still, if you're trying to keep it
with a harness.
Yeah. But it's like, again, if you're trying to keep it on a budget, then let people use whatever they want to use.
Next time you say something that we're making this rule to make it cheaper, just say you're doing it because you said so. Yeah, don't lie to me.
Right.
Yeah, because I think the Sweet Manufacturing, steering columns are like $400 or $500. I mean, that's not installed, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? But a lot of people, myself, yourself, I'll fit that motherfucker in there by myself. Not a problem.
Yeah, but it's like, the other thing is, it's like, when you look at the majority of the cars in Pro Spec, they're all at least $50,000 bills. At least.
Minimum.
Like,
minimum.
Yeah. And then there's cars in Pro Spec that are $120,000 cars.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is another $400, another $800? What's another grand? Like,
and this $50,000 mark, just so people who are listening, that includes time on some of them. Some of it don't. Like, I'm probably like $20,000 into this car right now out of my pocket for a car I haven't touched yet. You know, but by the time I like put the hours in, easy $40,000 car. Yeah,
but that it's like with Pro Spec again. It's just, I don't, how do I say it? Like, with Pro Spec, it narrows or makes it a lot cheaper by not having a full season, right? Like a full 8-round season. If you only have like 4 rounds, like, I get it, that cuts the budget. But then you also get guys that, like, take Jonathan Hurst, for example. That dude is like balling on a budget, massive budget, and he's still killing it. So why is there such an emphasis on car cost? Like, you can get a dude that has a $50,000 car that goes and smokes a freaking $120,000 car.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I've watched Jonathan Hurst waste Sorensen. Sorensen has an unlimited amount of budget. Jonathan Hurst doesn't have a lot of money. And there's a lot of other pro spec drivers, and even back in the days of like Pro 2, there was a bunch of Pro 2 drivers that were running with no money, and they smoked a lot of these unlimited money budget teams.
Or higher budget teams,
Yeah, like, for example, what was it? Who was even Jonathan Hurst in Long Beach? That dude is still, he's in Pro 1. He's one of the lowest budget teams in Pro 1, and he's out there smoking Odie, and who else did he put on the trailer? I forget, but like, he was killing it in Long Beach.
Yeah, I think he finished Final Four, didn't he? Or top 8?
I
think it might have been Final Four.
It might have been 4, dude. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think it was 4. Yeah. Because I remember in top 16, I think he had, top 32, he had Odie. I'm pretty sure he took Odie out in top 32.
And now look at Odie. He's in like the fucking top 5 of the standings right now. Jesus Christ. These fucking guys.
So, again, why do we need to have a budget cap, dude? We're not F1. Like, we're not road racing. We're not racing with, let's go back and remember that drifting is a judged sport.
And it was, he was in the Final Four. I just checked.
He was in the Final Four?
Yeah, for Long Beach.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I sound like a bitter old man right now, but I am kind of a bitter old man now.
So I'm pretty bitter.
I'm a bitter old fucking hater. Put it back the way it used to be.
Yeah,
back in my day. Yeah, that's where I'm getting.
Yeah, back in my
back in my day. Back in my day, you could have a hooker in the passenger seat. No, I'm just kidding. but it's just, yeah, I get it. But the sport needs to evolve, and I think they're doing the right thing, even if I disagree with it. Their views are up.
Tomato?
Yeah, it's just not the same. Did you used to watch like drifting videos when you were a kid, like the Japanese ones?
Mm-mm. All those, like, I've heard of like the Austin videos and all those. I've never watched like one.
Dude, I think I've seen them like a handful of times. I think the first time I saw like a drift. This is like, I think we got into a little bit. The Discovery Channel used to have a whole bunch of car shit on it. Remember? Before Velocity Channel came out.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw something about drifting. I thought it was the fucking coolest thing. And then not long after that, my memory's burst when I was like 15, 16 years old. I remember I saw it's like something with like Von Gittin Jr. on there. Like the whole Falcon team at the time for that year. What was it, like 2004 or 5? And then Tokyo Drift came out. And then I was fucking ripping my handbrake in my Honda Accord. And I hit a fucking fire hydrant, dude. I hit a fire hydrant, and that, like, the back, it was a coupe, so the back, like, right behind the wheel, like, let's just say this is the wheel, that whole thing just crushed in. And I lied to my dad and told him I spun out when it got wet, but it was, like, down the street from my house, and I was, like, ripping the e-brake like an asshole.
Dad, I don't know, dude. That fire hydrant, it just moved. It hit me.
Yeah, it was wet. What am I gonna do?
Yeah. Came out of nowhere, jumped out from behind the bush.
Yeah, I hear some people talk about like that drifting, and I'm like, I'm not a fan of that. It's cool. When I see, we just seem drift like
street drifting or like.
No, just like the origins kind of it, like back when they were like making DVDs. I'm like, it's cool. I see where it came from, but I'm like 1,000% a product of American drifting, which I would agree, like you are too, kind of, because. Right? Was that what your first event was? An FD event?
Yeah. Like the first drifting event I went to was FD Long Beach.
Which year?
And that was like 2008. Yeah, it was 2008. I knew of drifting. I've seen it before on like when Nopi was around, like the Nopi Nationals, when it was drag racing and drifting and stuff like that. So I knew of drifting, but I didn't experience it firsthand. And then in 2008, when I saw it in Long Beach and I experienced it firsthand, that's when it was game over for me. And I was just like, okay, I want to do this drifting thing. But I've never been like a drifting purist where, drifting started in Japan, and I'm just like, that's cool. Well, I like drifting, so what does it matter? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, or I think it's funny to me too, like when people are like, "Oh, like, did you ever watch like Initial D?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I saw one episode of Initial D, and I thought that was like whatevs, and I don't really care to ever watch it ever again." Like, all
I
I
saw the
know is,
first episode and I turned that shit off. Sorry.
yeah,
I couldn't
I'm
get through
like,
it either.
dude, I like drifting. I like building drift cars. I like driving drift cars. That's it.
Mhm.
Game over. Like,
Yeah.
do I need to watch Initial D and do I need to watch option videos to really be in the scene?
Yeah. That's wild
I
to
don't
me that some
I don't
people.
really care, dude.
Yeah, because like I'm not into Japanese cars at all. I don't even like. Truth be told, I don't like drift cars. They're not my style of car. I'm a car guy, like to my core.
Hmm.
But I am not. I could give a shit about drift cars in general. I love that they look cool. I love what they do. But I like old hot rods. Like I'm into 60s and
Yeah,
70s cars. Like,
I like my hot rods too.
yeah,
Like,
I know you do. You have one.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But
just not willing to
the
spend the
other
money right now.
it's just the other thing I think is hilarious is that the people here in the United States are all like hardcore like purists. Like, oh, my S13 is gonna have a, you know, a SR swap or whatever
Yeah,
RB
yeah,
swap, or my Toyota needs to have a JZ because it's Japanese and Japanese. And then you have the dudes in Japan that are like, oh, LS, make lots of talk. We want to LS everything. And
yeah.
it's like, the whole, it does this. In, I don't know, those people, when I go to drift events and they're like hardcore purists, like I'm so anti like purist anything. Like, I'm more of just Frankenstein. Let's put this motor in this car and
Do
let's just
something
go
cool.
have
Yeah,
fun.
you know, I'm all
Yeah,
for
because
that.
I remember showing up to drift events with my Camaro, and people didn't want it. I wasn't well when I first started showing up to drift events and drifting. I wasn't welcomed,
In the
which is
Camaro.
the weirdest. Yeah, in the Camaro, and I get it. It's an out of the ordinary car, but I still liked drifting, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when it kind of like put a bad taste in my mouth with a lot of drift people, and I didn't want to talk to a lot of drift people at the time because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, if that's how this scene is, then like, F you guys. I'm still going to be a part of this community, and now I just want to outdrift all of you and prove to you that a 68 Camaro can drift just as good as like an S chassis. So it's
Yeah.
like, I started in the drift scene with like spite and malice, and then I had to like calm down, and I
Yeah.
calmed down a bunch.
Yeah. Actually, the 68 Camaro was one of my dream cars when I was a kid. And then
Hmm.
I turned 15 or 16. And my dad made me help him in the garage build his 64 Cutlass, which I really want to buy back. But then I found out what a 65 Buick Skylark was. And I fell in love with that fucking thing.
Yeah.
And then now, what I've really been itching for is either a 66 Chevelle or a G body Malibu coupe.
Money. Sounds expensive.
That's exactly what it's like. Pick your fucking struggle, man. Are you gonna drift or are you gonna build this car? And I also want a boat, so we'll see where the fuck that goes.
I'm right there with you, dude. I want like a 61 Cadillac. I want a boat. I want a pre-runner. Like, I'm sitting
I
here
said
like
the same thing
all
about my Silverado. I was like, I'm gonna turn this into a pre-runner one day, and then I'll go do like the Mint 400
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
With what
And then I
money?
want like my mini. I want a mini truck. I want an like a square body S10 bagged and bodied like on 22s.
Dude,
Like,
yes.
where am I going to get all this time to build all this stuff, and then where am I going to get this money? Because realistically, in these vehicles that I just explained, I'm like, I need like $750,000.
That makes two of us. You know what's funny is like, so now I can always like I can kind of tell the car guys apart from like the drift guys. For the most part, like you and I like want those same things. Like we have those things, and then like there's other guys who are like, I just want a sick drift build, and this is my dream drift build. I'm like, no. What cars do you like? Drift cars. I'm like, oh, gotcha.
Right.
And those are two different things.
Right.
Great,
Yeah.
but I think if I could afford it, I'd have a garage full of cars that I can't afford.
Oh yeah, I would too. I would have the most eclectic collection of cars. Like, you see all these rich guys, they have like Ferrari, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Lambo. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, no. If I was a millionaire, I'd have like a couple of rat rods, a pre-runner,
Yes.
Cadillac, drift cars, an R34. Like,
I know.
I
A
would have
Cadillac
the,
on
like,
the floor. Like,
yeah, I'd have maybe a couple of different BMWs, don't get me wrong, and like a Porsche. But those
yeah.
would be like the only like supercars. Everything else would be like hot rods, muscle cars. I'd have like 5 '68 Camaros.
Actually, the only quote unquote supercar I actually do love is probably the F40. I'm not a supercar
Okay,
guy,
yeah.
but if
I'm
I
not
were to
either.
ever to get one, it'd be the F and the new vet. I love the new vet. And I
Really?
don't like vets, but I think the new vet is sick.
Like it.
I got to my girlfriend set me up to drive one at Vegas Speed or whatever it is for my birthday.
Mhm.
What was it, 2021? That thing was a shit, and it was just a base model.
But
Yeah, I was like,
although it'd be interesting. Speaking of the new vet, no one's made a actual like fully built drift car out of the new vet yet. Like, even though I don't like the car, but I'm
Mattfield's
still
doing it.
curious. Is he really?
Yeah, he's got a series on YouTube on it already. He just
Oh,
started
okay.
though.
Sick. Well, like, I'm really curious to see, is he going to keep is he going to put the motor in the front, or is he going to leave the motor where it's at?
Where
Is he going to put the motor in the front
no,
where it's at? So it's going to be a mid-motor
and he threw an
drift
LS in
car,
it.
right?
Yeah, and he threw an LS in it. I don't know where he's at with the build. I haven't
Okay.
really kept up with it, but I
Okay.
did. I watched like the first episode. I mean, maybe I'll catch up on it this week while I'm supposed to be
Mhm.
working.
I'm just curious as to like how that's going to work. Because the only rear engine or mid engine drift car I remember was, I think it was was it Tyler McCory?
That Porsche?
There was a Porsche.
It was
It
Tyler.
was a Porsche way back in the day. There was a Porsche, and
It was the
I don't know if it was
hand-cooked Porsche.
Tyler.
Yep.
Exactly. It was
was
white
Tyler
with
McQuarrie.
the orange and black.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that car was that competitive. But then again, back in those days, dude,
None of the cars were
nobody was.
competitive.
Dude, cars a hot pit would run circles around those cars. Like,
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been talking about lately. Is like the cars from like the Pro-Am cars of today would beat like are comparable to like a 2015 car, 2016 car, because a lot of the Pro-Am cars you guys are running like swapped it. Well, you're not running a quick change, but a lot of people are.
yeah. I mean, everybody's like, dude, you get people with quick changes, dog
Mhm.
boxes, and 500 to 700 horsepower. Like,
Mhm.
Dustin Farrell's 750 horsepower. I don't think he has a dog box, but I think he is quick change. You have Brandon Wicknick. He's running, 700 horsepower with, I think, a dog box and a quick change. Realistically, like, even looking at my own program now, I definitely need at least 75 to 100 horsepower for next year, which is just going to be nitrous. I was going to do nitrous this year, but I wanted to learn how to drive the car first.
Gotta
But,
put it on the juice.
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
next year it's for sure going to be on spray, 100%.
I deep dived into spray recently because like that GTO I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
I will never fucking do another power adder if I can help it. Just because of convenience of it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a pain in the ass of like having to refill or change bottles, whatever, or heating the bottle. But I found a thing about that. Something you might want to look into too. It's called
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's called nano nitrous.
Oh, you sent me something along those lines. Yeah. I
Oh, I
remember
did.
that.
Okay,
But
I don't remember if I told you about it.
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but like, I mean, I already have like a bottle. I still need to get like 5 more bottles. I already have a bottle heater that I got to wire into the car and stuff like that. I already have like basically everything other than wiring. Like, the only thing that I need to do to add nitrous to the car is literally wiring, plumbing it from the tank or the bottle to the nitrous plate, because the nitrous plate's already in the motor. The solenoid and the purge valve is already in the car. Literally, it's just wiring and
yeah, it's
plumbing,
a lot.
and then a tune, and then that's it. Like, literally, I could have done it for round 5, but me and my team sat down with, kind of just collectively, and we're just like, you know what, let's just double down on the car, and you're driving for round 5, and then we'll, go into round or next season like fresh with more power and everything. Because like it doesn't make sense to like have to relearn and just add one more variable while we're so high in points right now. Because right now I'm third in points,
Yeah.
and I'd hate to,
And that's after missing a round.
Even after missing a round, which is not going to round 1, I just don't want to risk adding an unknown,
Absolutely.
in just to.
No, it makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I'll just double down with what I got for the rest of the season, and I'm really confident in the
running
car.
away for you,
really
are
confident.
they?
Huh?
No one's like running away from you, are they? Have you felt like someone's kind of ran away from you at all, or?
I will say Dustin Farrell's really fast. That
He is
dude's
fast.
super,
He's fucking
super
fast.
He is super, super fast. He stands out to me. But then again, like, dude's got 700 horsepower, and his car probably weighs 2,600 pounds. I got 608 horsepower, and I weigh 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So I'm down 100 horsepower on him, and I got 400 pounds more weight in my car. So
that makes sense.
So that's I would say of all the drivers so far, he's the only one that I'm kind of like, if you're going to, if you're going to like really, if you want to dominate, like you need more power in the car, or you need to pull more weight. And I don't have enough money to start doing HGK body panels anytime soon. So nitrous it is.
It makes 2 of us, man.
Yeah,
I know. I was looking at your window, your rear window. I was like, oh, I kind of want one. I kind of don't want one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I got all the patterns, bro. I have all the patterns to replicate that window.
I kind of want it. I kind of don't. I mean, it looks fucking sick. Can you see out your rear window?
Yeah, I can see out.
I thought about throwing a fucking like backup camera in the car, because I'm like, because they make like the mirror.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like those are like $12 now on Amazon. I mean, they're not $12, but $50 is. It's not gonna kill me.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see out of it.
Oh well. Can you see out of it well? Because I'm always worried about fucking hitting somebody.
Well, it's not really. You can see out of the windows. The only hard part is seeing around the halo seat, because I have the halo seat. It's not like this seat, right? You have that dang halo where you have to like go around the halo.
Oh, I fucking hate that thing. I hate it. I
don't know. The halo saved me in my last crash, dude.
I hate that they have the halo and the fucking Hans, because you're like that.
I hate the Hans. Like, I hate it so much.
You're like this. Like, if you can see my eyes, you're like this, and then that's all you get.
Right. It's like you're drifting.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's the worst. And then when you do move your eyes, you have that, you're stuck, so you can't like move. Like, I'm short, so the halo's right fucking here.
We're both short.
Yeah, at my eyes. This is the halo. So when I go to turn left, I can't even see.
Yeah.
So you have to add more angle, and then just hope you can fucking see eventually.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hate it here.
Like, I don't mind wearing a halo, or I don't mind wearing like a Hans device for like if we were gonna do Irwindale.
Yeah.
We were gonna do some gnarly big course.
Or going faster.
Like basically the FD layout of Irwindale, 100%. I'm down to wear a halo. As far as like Orange Show, I'll risk it.
Maybe a neck brace.
I mean, no, I don't even run a neck brace. I just run the halo and like a helmet. I mean, I don't know, but I have a very weird philosophy of like, if I'm gonna die, I want to die in my sleep, or I want to die in a race car.
Yeah, that's
and if I don't wear a Hans device, I better my chances of dying in a race car.
my luck, I'm gonna die underneath the car because my fucking jack stands failed. And it's gonna be a slow and painful death.
That's not a way to go, bro.
I know. See, I want to buy a lift, but I don't know if I want to spend the money.
Yeah.
Did you build your car on the lift, or you build it on the floor?
For the most part, half and half. Like I did all the fab work, Yeah, I did all the rough fab work and like the cage and like mounting the motor, making the engine plate, making the transmission mount.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was on jack stands, and then when a lot of those major things, a lot of the major fabrication stuff was done, I remember stripping the car, getting everything off it. I rolled it out, on my cart to go paint it. I painted it, and then rolled it back in the shop, and then I put it on the lift to do like the final assembly.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, but all the rough fab work was literally on jack stands.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I prefer to do like the rough building of a race car or drift car, whatever, like on the floor, not on.
Yeah. We can do LS Fest next year.
Yes,
Fuck you.
I almost went to LS Fest East this year. Basically, a company is willing to. I was willing to like pay for my whole ride, like out there, like logistics, pay for fuel, pay for entry. They also wanted my car like in their booth and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But had that unfortunate situation with my Duramax of sucking the damn shop rag into the turbo, totally put it back together and fired it up, and I can't believe I made that mistake. So that kind of took me out of that. But in a way, it was super last minute, and I wasn't going to be able to compete at the Drift Comp anyways because they already had like something like 52 drivers. Like they have already 52 drivers registered for the Drift Comp. So it was already too late. So it's not a big deal, but I'll definitely do like LS Fest next year. And then I'll do Hot Pit next year. I want to do that that series that's up and that was happening this weekend. What's it called? The Link ECU Riverside Drift series that's happening in like Indiana. I watched the live stream today, a little bit of it. I think it'd be fun to go do that. I am going to do DriftCon coming up in September 30th next month. I'll be out DriftCon, Evergreen Speedway.
They have a shootout in October
for Washington. Too. Yeah, so it'll be wild like that. I'll be back-to-back drift events. So it's going to be round 5, and then the following weekend is DriftCon. So I'm going to be coming into DriftCon fresh of driving another event.
Good. Hey, they're also having a shootout in October. Evergreen.
Really? Nice.
I think your car technically passes tech if you want to go up there. Their tech is.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how. Like, I think with DriftCon, I already told them about the side exit exhaust and all the stuff that I had in my car, and they're just like, "Yeah, no, that's fine." Like, okay, cool. And they're just like, as long as you run like a 300 treadwear tire and like no bigger than 265.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they're emphasizing tire roll, which I again I agree with. I think that's cool.
How do you like those Valinos? Fucking.
Oh, you mean the Vitors?
Vitor. Sorry.
No, I love the Vitors, dude. Like, they're sick. Like, I like the Vitors. I mean,
you've driven on Achilles and Vitor. I heard that they're super similar. Is that true? They're not true.
No. I would say the Achilles 123 was a way more grippier tire, but also too the Achilles 123, those were 200 treadwears. Those tires. So
you're on the 300, right?
Yeah, I'm on 300. So the Vitor is a 265 35 300 treadwear. I like them a bunch. Some people get a bunch of laps out of them. I don't necessarily get a bunch of laps out of them just because I have so much mechanical grip. The people that say they get a bunch of laps out of them don't have a lot of mechanical grip. So it's kind of like, for example, I'll run that tire, I'll put 2 laps on it, and then I have to take it off. Because if I don't take it off, if I do another battle on those tires, I'm going to get like one more lap. In that 4th lap, the tire's going to be way too hot. It's going to be too greasy. Yeah, and it's cool if you have maybe like 300 horsepower. Like, you could probably get a lot of laps out of it. Or if you're not doing comps, I still pull the tires off after every 2 laps. But then once those tires come off and they're heat cycled, I can go take those scrubs to a test day, and I can go get a full another 2 laps on those tires. So as long as you let them cool down and you manage the heat in that tire, you could get maybe like more laps out of them. Like maybe if you put like tire sprayers or something on the car.
Yeah, you also have a heavy foot.
Yeah, that takes another into account too.
Yeah, your smoke comes on a lot sooner than like a lot of other drivers for hot pit.
Yeah.
like on the bank, because you always run the fucking bank. So as soon as your smoke is on, probably a quarter a quarter after the quote unquote initiating spot, where a lot of
hmm
other guys will be like halfway or a third over, and then their smoke starts to really like come in. So you have
Well, I
that
think it's
going for
because
you.
too. Yeah, well, I'd say there's a lot of mechanical grip in that car, like a bunch. There's a lot of mechanical weight being leveraged like
Mm-hmm.
under the tire. Versus I know a lot of people like when they stab on the throttle, like the car just squats massively, and you can kind of just see it like well, you don't have a lot of weight on that rear end. It's just it's not leveraged enough. But then too, even with other tires, I mean, I've experimented with the Zestinos. I haven't driven on the Zec Novas. I haven't driven on the Velinos, but the Zec Novas and the Zestinos are made in the same factory. And I remember on one of my test days when we tested out the Zestino is more grippy. And on top of that, it doesn't last like as long. We only got like 2 laps out of them. But then also when we put the tire to a durometer, testing the Vitor up against the Zestino on the durometer, like there's no, even though the Zestino says it's a 300 tread wear, it's not. It's like a 200 tread wear. Like it's literally, the rubber is still super soft. And then same thing with the Zec Novas. The Zec Novas, those aren't, even though they may say they're 300 tread wear, they're not. They're like when you durometer them, it's got to be like in the realm of like 200 tread wear, and that's fine. And sure, I could run those tires, but the thing that I love about the Vitors is that Chris does a really good job of like supplying the tires to the drivers versus other suppliers. It's very, very, and I'm going to say this very lightly, it's hard to get tires, and they're not as dependable. Again, I'm not going to name names, but they're not as dependable as
I think
Chris
I know what you're talking about.
that supplies the Vitors.
I've
Yeah.
heard a few
So
stories.
it's kind of like that was another thing that was a big factor of who I'm going to choose to run or whose tires I'm going to run. And to budget, obviously the Zestinos are more, the Zec Novas are more, the Velinos are more. But I just knew if I use, a not as grippier tire, then I need to focus more on car setup
Mm-hmm.
and maybe add more mechanical grip, maybe, play with spring rates a little bit more. I'm going to have to be more, how do I say it, more educated and apply more technology into the chassis to make that tire work. And I've literally finally tuned my car and my driving around the Vitor tire. So by doing that, I've built a car around the tire. Everybody builds this car and they don't think about tire. Well, if you build the car around a tire, that's what makes it, I believe, successful. And I don't foresee myself changing, to another tire anytime soon. Like I've even told Chris, like I want to commit this entire season to Vitor. I don't want to change tires. I don't want to have to change spring rates and shock tuning in my driving. I want to stay consistent. And I think that's another big component of why I've been able to do well this season. And that's what I'm gonna go into it with the same philosophy next year. I'm just gonna stick to Vitor and just the car rips on
You're
Vitor.
already doing
so
well on it. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Why change? The only thing I could see the improvement or the only change that I could do for next year is just add a little bit more power, which is nitrous. Other than that, I'm just gonna still continue what I'm doing now because I know it works.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I know what Chris you're talking about.
Yeah.
There is I like him.
He's cool. Chris is a good dude.
Yeah, he's friends with your best friend Rome.
They like each other. But...
Hey, makes you feel better. Rome knew I was gonna spin out when I had a battle one time at the Drift League, and he just fucking let me. I have a video of it. I have to post it sometime. But like, I spun out behind him, obviously, and then I took off because I always take off like a bat out of hell, like an asshole. And then he didn't. He just fucking chilled. And then he waited for me to spin out in front of him. As soon as I went to go transition after the big bang, I fucking looped it. And I hated myself ever since.
I remember when I first started this season with Hot Pit and then with Chris, like, tires and stuff. Chris was telling me, oh yeah, dude, like so Rome does this, and Rome runs this tire with this spring rate and everything. And I'm just sitting there going, bro, I don't care what Rome does. And still till this day, like even when we were building the coilovers for my car, it was like, oh, we'll give you the Rome spec, and I'm like, dude, I don't even care what that dude does. Like, I just don't.
It doesn't make sense to give somebody. Rome doesn't drive the way you drive. Does that make
No.
sense?
And then Rome's car is a trailing arm. My car is a multi-link rear.
Yeah.
Different. Those are two different ways of valving and two different ways of spring rate.
Rome's driving style and your driving style are two different things. It's kind of like I always compared Rome to the way like Osmo drives. It's like very calculated, so to speak, which is great. Like I couldn't fucking do that. Like they're super, freaking the word that I use all the fucking time. I can't find it right now. Consistent. They're very consistent.
Yeah.
Whereas like people who are more aggressive driving, sometimes the aggressiveness gets the best of you. I mean, you know that. Like something stupid that can happen. Yeah, with the car. Whereas someone who's like more conservative with their driving, which I would say Rome is, you know what I mean? Since he is conservative, if something does come up, he can probably, work around it. Whereas somebody who's like driving off the fucking rails in their car, if something does come up, like that could fuck them up. Like they need everything to go perfectly in a line.
Well, it's like I think a lot of people focus on they focus really hard on making a fast car, and that's cool. Like you should make a fast car. But what a lot of people miss is that you also need to learn how to make that car not fast anymore, and you also need to learn how to drive that car while it's not fast anymore either. Because it's like people forget they have so many different tools. You know, they can still tune their shocks, they can still play with tire pressure, and they can still play with sway bars. So it's kind of like, because you're going to have a field of 40 drivers, like in Hot Pit, you have a field of 40 drivers, some that are just fast, and then some that are just not fast. And you need to make sure your tool can do this and your tool can do this. And that's something that I learned, like the last pump that I did prior to Hot Pit at the shootout. I made my S14 super gripped up and super fast, and Taka called me out on it. He's like, your car too fast. And I'm like, thanks. But he's like, no, you look, when you drive, you correct. Right? That's Taka, bro. That's so Taka. Like,
Taka. I know.
You make adjustment. Your car is too fast in rear. You need to pull grip out. You know? Because I'm sitting there like, what? Fully gripped in my wheels, dude. I'm like, the whole car. And
yeah, that's a little, when you're chasing.
I learned a lot. Yeah, I learned a lot from that, where when it's like Dustin Farrell, it's like, all right, let her eat, dude. Let's unleash the car. Oh, we're behind, so-and-so. All right, 50 PSI in the rear. Like, like
I need to take some fucking grip out of this thing. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and then qualifying. You don't need to be the fastest gripped up car in qualifying. Why you need to run, 7 PSI while the track temp is 70 degrees is mind-boggling in qualifying. Why?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can float your car. Because I think now I've learned a lot more, like in the past couple of years. I think qualifying, you don't want like all of that set up in there, because then you kind of show your hand, so to speak. And I know that like drifting, the judges, they reward consistency. But in my personal opinion, let's just say you're doing a flick during your fucking, you're doing a flick all day in practice or something, or a handbrake entry, whatever. But then you switch it to a flick, right? When you're going to competition, because you're driving a little bit harder, you're driving a little bit faster. I think that should be acceptable. I don't think you should be docked for that. I think it's kind of silly. It's kind of like, if we're playing chess and I fucking tell you what my next move is, that it's going to be before you're about to take your turn, I'm like, hey, before you go, I want you to know this is what my next move is going to be. Like, that's kind of, I think that's kind of silly, So I think that's something that can be changed in drifting. That's my only gripe about it, but I'm not there yet, so I shouldn't really be talking.
I get what you're saying, where it's like you don't want to be a predictable driver,
Correct.
but also it's kind of like it's very hard to. I can't speak for everybody, but in my position, like I know I can throw down a good lead, but because I can throw down a good lead, now everybody knows it. So now everybody's going to be on my door. Like for example, exiting outer one in at Hot Pit, dude. There was a couple of battles where I can feel my bumper exit, like while we're exiting, I can feel my rear bumper on the wall. And at the same time, I can feel Dustin's tire on my door. Or I can feel Margaritas' tire on my door. And that is a very interesting position to be in, because if I don't stay in it, we're so committed to each other that we're riding off both our cars, like hard. And it's like, how do you, it makes me kind of think like, okay, instead of like being on the wall, maybe when I go up against Dustin or Margaritas, because I know they're going to be on me, like touching me, maybe should I only be a foot off the wall now, or 2 feet off the wall, just so we can avoid a wreck? Because if I'm already on the wall, and if he even touches me just a little bit too much, now that's going to suck me more into the wall just by him touching me.
Yep.
So that's the conversation I've been having in my head, and also with my team of like, how do you battle that? And the driving of Hot Pit is getting gnarlier and gnarlier, which is it's exciting. I think it's fun, but it's also getting to that point of like, dude, we're already on the wall, and now you're at the same time on my door, like literally at the same time. So it's like I won't change, how do I say it? I won't change my entry. I won't really change my driving style. I will just try to run the best line that I possibly can and in the lead the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
Which I think that's kind of like all you can do. Like really. And plus I love, like, another reason I kind of flick is that it's just harder to stay behind. But then again too, it's not really that hard, because if someone does a hard flick and you don't flick with them, you don't have to, in the chase, you don't have to flick with them. You can just beeline it, like, because I've watched Rome do it. Someone does a hard flick in front of him, and he's just over here, just at the last minute, and then it's just like, boom, instantly there.
Yep.
So I think, but I can see where I've won a lot of my battles just because I still, I risk the hard flick regardless, and I think the judges appreciate it.
Do you go back and watch?
I believe I haven't won a lot of battles with my chases. I've won more battles in the lead than anything.
Do you go back and watch the Hot Pit live stream just to kind of see where you were at?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like, yeah. When I look at the Hot Pit live stream and stuff like that, and I kind of, me and Mike, we go back and we watch everybody's runs, and we also watch, our runs and stuff like that. We try to really, go, hey, like, what were our strengths and what were our weaknesses? And also look at everybody else. What are they doing, and stuff like that. And, Mike has his own opinion, and I also have my opinion too. And realistically, when I look back, he might even agree with me, is like, we won more battles over my leads than my chases. Gotcha. And I need to improve my chase game like a bunch. But I am getting more comfortable with the car, and I am getting better at setting up the car for a better chase. But yeah, like I really believe, like, the only reason why I've been doing so well is because, is because of my leads, not my chases.
Gotcha.
Or unless the only chase I could honestly say that I did do a pretty good chase was when I was against Casey for the Battle of Third. That was where I wanted that podium really, really bad, and I just was like, you know what, we're just gonna go for it.
I'm trying to figure out where the fuck Casey Chavez come from, because never heard of him.
Supposedly this was like his first drift comp, like, or that, like, this last round supposedly was like his second ever drift comp ever.
That's
and
fucking wild.
He's a good driver.
No shit. Never heard of him. Never seen him at an event.
He came from like BMX. He's like an Adam LV.
Oh really? Okay. No, he's driving really well. I'm not shitting on him. He just came out of nowhere.
If you go on Yeah, if you go on his Instagram, he did like a lot of like BMX stuff. I think
Yeah,
he's a cool dude.
for sure. But RJ invited me to go drive that track, right? Before round two. Yeah, before round two.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's when I still had the silver car, my street car, and
Mm-hmm.
it was cool. He was there too, and but I was like, "Oh, who is that?" He's like, "Oh, that's a new driver," and I was like, "Cool." Then I had a short conversation with him, and then I saw him make it to the fucking final four this last round. I was like, "God damn it!" Never have shit I like. But yeah, man, he's a killer driver, dude. I was like, that's
Yeah,
pretty sick. I like it.
yeah,
His car looks good. Everything.
yeah.
Um, let's go over your car though. Talk about your build a little bit. I know we kind of like sprinkled it in there a little bit throughout the
Mm.
episode. But let's go like over your car, what you have done. I mean, obviously you don't have to say it's LS swaps. We know that. But you just want to go over like what you got going on in that thing.
Yeah, it's basically it's, BMW E92 started life as a 335, wasn't so it's a non-M chassis. I don't claim it to be ever an M3, but stock front subframe, stock rear subframe. Start from the front to the back. The engine's an LQ4 iron block, so 6-liter like truck engine, LS
Mm-hmm.
base, dart heads, Edelbrock manifold, AccuFab throttle body, 63-pound injectors, daily dry sump, oil system. Let's see what else. Truck ignition coils. Make 608 to the rear wheels. The transmission is a G-Force GSR dog box that I got from not directly from Hendricks Motorsports, but Hendricks Motorsports sold it to like an amateur NASCAR team. Then I bought it from that team. Still has like the Hendricks Motorsports stamp on it, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
I built the engine myself. Also rebuilt the transmission myself and re-geared it for the gear ratios that I needed for drifting.
Mm-hmm.
Drive shaft is an aluminum drive shaft made by PEM Racing or PEM Racing. 4 9-inch diff swap in the back, so a strange diff, spool, 31 spline, 930 inner and 930 outer CVs for the axles, and the axles are made out of 300M, which is what you would find axles made for like trophy trucks and stuff like that.
Wait,
so it's got a really
what did you go through for axles?
I had them custom made, so I didn't have Drive Shaft Shop make them. It's actually a shop over here in Ontario that custom made the axles for me. I already had the 930 CBs. I just needed to give them the length. But the axles themselves are 300M, so they're super, super durable. And then the fuel cell, it's a 7-gallon fuel cell with baffles, and it's got a Holley hydromat in it, so I don't need a surge tank. But it's with fuel, it's like max is like 6.5 gallons. I built the cell myself. Let's see what else. Body kit is Extreme Dimensions. The front suspension and the rear suspension is full Wisefab. Coilovers are Feel coilovers. It's got one-way fronts, two-way rears, so it's their 441.5 kit. The brake system, I did full Willwood. So Willwood calipers up front, 4 piston calipers in the front, 2 piston in the rears, but dual 2 piston in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make my own custom brackets to make those calipers work with the Wisefab kit. Although HTK did offer their own kit, but I didn't have the money to buy their kit, so I knew
it's
I
absurdly
my own
priced.
brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I did all the work myself as far as building the car. Aside from I didn't paint the car. Dan over at DG Collision sprayed the car, did a phenomenal job on it. And then Derek Klug made this really awesome electrical panel that I use in the S14 that I transfer over into the E92. That's kind of like my mechanical PDM, kind of still old school, but it works super, super great. But I did have to do the chassis, harness, like wiring up the, fuel sender, fuel pump, tail lights, headlights, stuff. I did have to do that kind of wiring for it. The roof is a fiberglass roof that came off of Farouk's old E92 that I got from RJ. So I cut the roof off, the fiberglass roof. The doors are still steel. The hood's still the stock hood. The trunk is still the stock trunk. Yeah. It's got, mechanical water pump, or excuse me, it's an electrical water pump. So I eliminated the mechanical water pump at the engine, and it's just pure electric in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Rear mount radiator. It's a 31 by 19 radiator. I bought it as just a single pass. It's like $170 radiator that I converted into a 3-pass or a triple pass. That helps with cooling. And then I got dual 16-inch fans on that radiator. And I actually had to build kind of like, because that radiator is only a 31 by 19, the 16-inch fans are way, way bigger. So I had to build like a kind of like a big velocity stack shroud just to fit those fans on the radiator. And then same thing with my rear Eurofighter style rear window. I made that myself just using just pictures off the internet just to copy. That's all made out of like, you know, polycarbonate window and aluminum versus like HGK's is all carbon fiber. But yeah, that's my car in a nutshell. 255, 35, 18 front tires, 265, 35, 18 in the rear. My front wheels are 8.5, and then the rears I think are 9.5. I don't remember the offsets off the top of my head, but they're not, you know, they're not crazy aggressive offsets. I think the fronts are like 22, no, like 30s, and then the rears are like 35. No, the rears are I think are 22. Yeah.
I got Farouk's old coilovers. That car's and RJ has the car. That car's gonna live on through all three of these cars. It's funny. Actually, I had a company. I'm not allowed to say their name. Well, I'm allowed to say the company's name, but I can't say who it is. But I had a company called AB Suspension, rebuild Farouk's coilovers that I bought from RJ. And it's basically the same setup you have. So it's the single adjustable fronts and then dual adjustable rears. But I have
two-way rear.
What are these? Fortunatos? Yeah, Fortunatos.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, I don't know. Mike told me not to get them, but they were $400, and I couldn't say no. So here's one. My office is filled. My office is fucking filled with. I got all my interior in here right now, like for the race car. I have my whole rear suspension under my desk. I have a brand new set of the wheels I just bought. Oh, and I bought the polycarbonate fucking windows from, I think it's Condor Speed Shop. Don't quote me on that. Whoever made them. Shit, I could just bolt in. Did the old buy once, cry once method.
Saves a bunch of time and a bunch of effort. I had to make all my windows from scratch.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to do. I'm hoping I can get this car together in like 3 months when I get it back. Glue the JB weld that cage in, and we'll see what happens with the firewall. We'll see. What are your plans for next year? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit with running the Riverside Drift Series, Hot Pit, and LS Fest. No, you already told me, so we're not going to ask you that.
Yeah, it's just Hot Pit, LS Fest. Yeah, next year, 2024. Yeah, 2024. Hot Pit, LS Fest, maybe DriftCon, and then hopefully Clutch Kickers if they come back. And then if I'm going to do Pro Spec, it would be like, I don't know, 2025 or 2026.
Yeah, that more realistic because you have to build another car.
Yeah, which for me, and I say this humbly, for me it wouldn't be hard, but it's just like, I don't know, dude. Like I just hate building a car around that many rules. Like that, it makes me quiver.
I get it. I think like something like in my line of work, I do fire alarms. So we are kind of like we have we have like not a rule book, but we have a series of codes we have to go by. So I'm used to that mindset already, and it's all I've ever done since I like out of high school. So I'm already used to that. Someone tells me like, hey, you have to do it this way. I'm like, all right, and they just do it that way, right? But I can see I can see somebody's problem with it being like now I can't get as creative. where
Mhm.
I will use it as a positive, like, oh, now I get to get more creative because I want to see like what lines can I push.
Yeah. Well, I think it is fun to find gray areas like in the rule book. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolute. I mean, even in the drift league, there was like they were so heavily FD rules, but yet I found a lot of gray areas in the FD rule book, like when I was building the Mustang, and then even when I was building the S chassis. More so the Mustang. That car, I will admit, like that thing, the suspension was definitely out of spec, and that car was, I don't know, illegal the entire time.
I wonder
But
if you can run a carburetor in Prospec. Because as soon as I put a
I
carburetor
don't
on
see why
that
not.
bitch, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
but
see why not.
as soon as you run a carburetor setup and a distributor setup, like Link goes out the fucking door.
Oh, right. Oh, I
Yeah,
get
like
that.
if you
Yeah,
showed
if
up with
you
your
run a
small block out of your Camaro
yeah,
in your E90
like a
too.
non-fuel injected
Yeah,
engine, yeah, like you still have to run a Link ECU.
yeah.
I
What
can kind
about
of see where,
what do
yeah,
I
that
want to
would
hook
be
it
a
up to?
gray
My
area.
fucking oil pressure sender? Like, get out of here! I'm not spending that much money
Yeah,
for an oil pressure fucking monitor. No.
exactly.
I
That
want.
would be hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like I would do it
Or
just to
like
do it if I could.
mechanical fuel injection, bro.
Yeah, from like a fucking
Like
old '57 Chevy when it
ITBs,
first started. Yeah,
ITBs, and the fuel pump is run off the crank. Like
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep, on the small block on the front.
mechanic mechanical fuel injection, dude. Old school, like
Yeah,
old school stuff.
because fuck them. That's
Yeah,
why. I'm just kidding.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Like F your rules, dude.
why
Your
would you
rules
do that?
suck. Yeah,
I'm like the same
I don't
reason you
know,
made those
man.
stupid ass rules. That's why. Because fuck
Yeah,
these people. No, I'm just kidding.
no, these rules, all these rules, yeah.
No, I hear you. Would do it? Do you guys have a chance to win the championship for Hot Pit on the next run?
Oh, do we have like in the point standings? Do we have a chance?
I don't know what point. I don't know what the points are right now. I have to look it up.
I'm last I checked, I'm like 70 points behind the leader, which is now Dustin, and then Rome is second, and I think I'm like 50 points behind Rome. And then Margaritas is literally like on my tail. I think he's like 10 points behind me, as well as whoever's behind Margaritas. I think it's John Schaefer or it's Rudy. I don't remember. So I think I'm going to be playing more defense than offense in round 5. Now, if Rome got out super early, like in top 32, and if I, podiumed again, 100%. Like, then we're passing Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, I believe, is going to do really well at round 5. So the chances are slim. So all my focus is if I could pass Rome, that'd be awesome. If I can remain in third, like that would be literally like ideal. Like I told myself going into this season, I wanted to be top 10. And then after the win at round 3, going from 23rd in points all the way to 6th, it was like, all right, well, we're already top 10. Hey, let's maybe be top 5. Let's get into the top 5 spot.
Yeah.
And then after this last podium, it shot me up to third. And it's like, all right, well, let's see if we can hold on to third. So being a round down, my hands are kind of tied. But if I could remain third, dude, like, or even just top 5, like that's being a round down with a brand new car, haven't driven in 2 years, like that's a massive accomplishment. So I can't really sit here and put too much pressure on myself. I mean, I do want to try to remain podiuming in the point standings, but I've already accomplished a crap ton so far.
Give me 1 second, man. Sorry, my dogs are like, if you don't let me out, I will shit on your floor.
Hey, it happens, dude.
Dude.
Going through my Ring camera footage because, dude, one point over the weekend, someone broke into my trailer. And I can't tell if it was, yeah, like, because my trailer is parked out right outside of my shop, and I don't know if they broke into it either Friday or Saturday night, or even, yeah, it would be Friday or Saturday night. And, like, dude, I have a bunch of spare parts. Dude, I had my whole extra 4 9-inch diff, my whole extra steering rack, an extra starter, ignition coils, an aluminum jack, a whole toolbox, and they didn't take anything. They left all the cabinet doors open except for my cabinet doors. Like, so I have a counter, an aluminum counter, with a bunch of drawers in the front of the trailer. They just ripped all the doors off.
No.
Like, but they didn't take anything. So I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. You broke the lock, you opened the door, opened up everything, and then just decided to break all my doors and then dip out and then shut the door. It's like tweakers, dude.
Gotta
like,
love them.
Pissed me off, dude. They didn't take anything. And then my laptop was right on the top of the counter, like just chilling there. Didn't even take the laptop. Wild. What, like?
It's almost like laptops aren't worth shit anymore. I don't know.
It's so wild.
Yeah, they had like all the expensive shit, but that's right. You have a whole spare diff, right? Like you have the whole Dutchman.
Oh yeah, the whole Dutchman. Oh dude, it's like ready to go. It has like literally the Dutchman housing with a whole other third member bolted into there, and they still freaking didn't take it. And you can see it, like the doors open and everything. Like still didn't take it. Like
maybe
you guys are like
maybe just put price tags on shit, and maybe they'll take it next time.
Right? Like where they wouldn't. People wouldn't even know what they even freaking had anyways. I don't know. It's sad that we live in like, world like that. Like it's just, I don't know. It pisses me off. It's like right after this, I have to go freaking lock up the trailer and get some of that stuff out, and like I gotta go buy another lock for it. Like,
I heard that. I heard
people,
that.
dude.
What can you do? Is this your first day back in? Oh wait. Oh, today's Sunday. I'm fucking lost right now. So I was like, is this your first day back in the shop? Just the first day you noticed it.
Yeah. I didn't even. Yeah, I wasn't at the shop yesterday, and I was at the shop Friday. Yeah, I was at the shop Friday, but I wasn't at the shop.
I know. I saw you at
all
Disneyland
yesterday.
I was like, this fucking Turd's living his best life.
Well, I don't know, dude. Like, I mean, I'm constantly like working, or it's like if I'm not working, then I'm working on the car. I'm working on something over here. I'm working on the Duramax. I'm working on another It's like I need that once in a while, like escape.
I went to Disneyland like sometime this year. Don't ask me a day. I was wearing a jacket, so it must have been cold still. But I haven't been to Disneyland since I was like 14. I was like, this is actually fucking cool.
Oh,
like my
awesome.
girlfriend was like, we have to go. I was like, I guess. I had no desire to go.
Sick, dude.
Yeah,
well, we didn't even go into Disneyland. We just went to downtown Disney.
Oh shit, really? I thought you guys were in Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, like we were just at downtown Disney, like because my pass, like, because I have a Disneyland pass, my pass wasn't good, so it's just like, oh, let's just all go, to restaurants and bar hop and like whatever.
Yeah.
That's what typically we just do is just go down there and bar hop. Like it's expensive, but I'm not gonna do it all the time. But once in a while, gotta go have some fun.
You gotta
somewhere.
indulge every now and again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to we're foodies, man. So like outside of like racing, I fucking love food. And recently I got into golf. Do you play golf? Because if you do,
Nope.
I will tell you, let's go.
I mini golf.
It's the same difference. No, if you ever get into golf,
it's different.
If you ever want to get out of the house to go day drinking, golf is the perfect place to do it. That's what I found out. But
I have a couple of friends that go golfing and they do that, but
that's a good time.
I don't know. Sports aren't really my thing.
Yeah, neither was mine until they told me you can drink. But
right, yeah.
All right, man. I think I'm gonna call it here, man. We're at like 2 hours, dude. Thank you.
Oh wow, we are.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, brother. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on. This is episode 2.5 of fucking
Heck yeah.
Josh Mason, because last week there was a shit show. It happens. But how can people find you, man? Where can they find you on Instagram? I don't know if you have like Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I don't really like. I mean, I have Facebook, but I just use it for like Facebook Marketplace. My YouTube channel isn't really. I've been doing much in like my YouTube channel, but mostly I'm just on Instagram. It's just Mason the Driver, Mason the Driver. Super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I share a lot of like my builds and just content and all that kind of crap. I'll eventually fire up YouTube again, but right now it's just been super, super busy just getting a lot of things organized in life.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, man. Thank you for coming on again. Best
Thanks,
of luck
brother.
at round 5.
Appreciate
I
you.
will see you there, and we'll all go get
Yeah.
shitty TGI Fridays after. Can we fucking move that to BJ's, by the way? Because they close at the same
Right?
time. Because
Yeah.
everyone
No, I'm
like,
down.
all right, I'm gonna fucking
I'm
start a
down.
movement because Fridays is terrible food. It's terrible food.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that great. It ain't like Chili's.
Fridays, if you're listening to this, I love your food. I was just kidding. All right, man. Thank you. Have a good night, man.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thanks again. You do the
All right.
same.
Yep.
Yeah, bye.
Don't